In this video, we're going to be writing equations from graphs. So remember, we have our transformational kind of parent function, or formula if you will, where our A, H, K, and M guide us in what it should look like. We also have our table that helps us with our notation as well, and where our H is and where our K is and where those things belong. So let's take a look at our first example here. So for each of these graphs, a transformation has occurred from f of x equals x squared. So that's the parent function, x squared, right? Quadratic parent function. So we're supposed to write an equation for each of those functions. Now the parent function, just so we're all aware, looks like this, right? So that's what that looks like. So a change has happened. So here we can see that this graph has moved up 4 units. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now remember that up is a k value, right? So we're going to put that in the k's spot. So here we're going to have the f of x plus 4, because that's where our k is at. Now remember that f of x is x squared, right? So right here we're going to put x squared. So we'll have x squared, then we add the 4, and we see, can we reduce that or simplify that at all? And we can't. So then we just finish it up by writing g of x, that'll be our new equation's name. So g of x equals x squared plus 4, and that is our solution there. Let's take a look at letter B, because it looks like a couple things are happening here. So here we see that our graph is going to be moving to the left 1, 2 spots, right? 2 spots to the left. Now left is an h value, so left means it's an h value. And if we go to the left, we want to see a plus sign. Then our graph moves down 1, right? It moved down 1 spot. So remember that down is our k value. So we moved to the left 2, and we went down 1. So as we go to write that, we know that the h belongs inside with our x. So we should see a plus sign, and then the number 2, and our k belongs outside, and down is a minus 1. Now remember that f of x means x squared. But notice that inside, we don't just have an x, we have an x plus 2, which means that this x is going to need to be replaced with x plus 2. So let's write that equation. Let's start by naming it. So our new equation will be called g of x equals, now instead of writing x squared, we need to write x plus 2 squared minus 1. And we can't simplify anything, and so we're done. And that is the solution to that particular example. Let's try a couple others. So here for letter C, notice that our graph has reflected. It is now upside down and reflected across the x-axis. So it reflected across the x-axis. Okay, and that means that we're going to see a negative in the front. But the center of our graph moved up 2. So remember, up is our k value, right? So here we'll have our f of x, and then we're going to be adding our k value to it, or adding our 2, but don't forget about that reflection. So we should have the negative out in front. And our f of x is our parent function, which is just our x squared. So we can write our equation, g of x equals, we need our negative sign out front, Then we can write our x squared, and then we have our plus 2. So we have negative x squared plus 2, and there's nothing to simplify or combine, and so we're done. And let's finish up with letter D. So here again, we see that our function has been reflected across the y-axis. There doesn't appear to be any movement up or down, but we did move from the origin 1 to 3, so 3 to our right. So that's going to be our h value. And remember, if we move to the right, we're going to see a minus sign, right? We're going to see a minus sign. So here we have our f of x, which is our parent function, right? But we know that we need to put in that minus 3 so that it'll move to the right. And because it reflected across the x-axis, there should be a negative sign in the front. So remember that that f of x is the x squared. But the x plus 3 will need to take place of our x. So as we go to write our equation for our g of x, we'll have our negative out front, but in the x squared spot, we need to write x minus 3. Remember, that's that right there that we just plugged in? Right, we need to write that x minus 3 there. And we can't simplify anything, and so this is going to be our solution. And so here we've written the equation of that graph.